Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, everyone, or good night, everyone. It depends from where you are connected. Thanks for joining. Thanks to our speakers for joining us, our friends. We hope to see you all live next year in our Legal Community Week edition from 7 to 11 June 2021. Thank you very much to Sven von Messenkampf, partner of Pavian Saldo Corporate Head of Desk Germany. Thank you to Pavian Saldo for the partnership. We are very grateful to our foreign friends to be here for this webinar today to talk together about the impact of COVID-19 on in-house legal department. So we all wait, we will all wait, listen to you very carefully. So I will leave now to Ilaria. I will say again, thank you very much to every one of you to be connected, and bye-bye, because now I'm going on the audience side. So thank you very much. Ilaria, it's up to you now. Ciao.
Ciao Aldo, thank you very much. As you say before, today we will be discussing about the coronavirus with people from various jurisdictions, since the pandemic is having and has had lots of legal implications at an international level and is challenging the entire world. We will try to talk about its impact, to discuss on how it is creating a new normal, let's call it a new normal, and we will try to share our speaker personal experiences to give you an idea on how the legal community is dealing with this crisis. To our online audience, I would first of all say thank you for connecting, for joining us. And I also remind to you that it is possible to send to us a question, clicking on the Q&A icon that you will see from Zoom, indicating in case you have a preference, the name of the panelist you'd like to reply to the question you will share with us. We will try to reply to all of them or to some of them at the end of the panel. Let me introduce our speakers that I see are already connected with us. Fabio Bertoni, General Counsel, The New Yorker. Mohamed Elmogy, General Counsel, Siemens. Ruiz Lozano, Legal and Government and Industry Affairs Senior Director and General Counsel and Compliance, Toyota from Mexico. We have Eduardo Ruiz Montoya, Vice President and Deputy General Counsel, Global Regions, EMEA for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. He's connected from Spain. Jaspreet Fancy, Deputy General Counsel at Selecta from Switzerland. We have Mahmoud Sharawi, Group Legal Director, El Sewedi Electric from Egypt. And last but not least, Sven von Messenkampf, Partner M&A Corporate Head of Desk Germany at Pavian Saldo from Italy as me. Let's start. Fabio, I can't see Fabio. I think we had some issue with the connection, but let's move on. Let's move on to Luis. As I said at the beginning, the coronavirus is impacting the legal community. It is impacting, first of all, on a business side, because the crisis is having an impact on the businesses, which is this impact that you see on your businesses, and also how this is impacting your job as a general counsel.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank you and thank Aldo and the legal community for the invitation. It's an honor to be with you guys again. And so obviously it has been a journey for everyone. I think everyone's going to tell a very interesting story of how things have worked. Just a reminder, in Mexico is still under the pandemic. We're still on phase red of the pandemic, and it has been quite a challenging situation. First, I think the first job of every single lawyer and internal counsel has been to make a safe shutdown of the businesses, and to accommodate the business and the business needs to a certain degree, a certain level of activity, and a certain more slow business activity during some of that time. And that implies, for example, to try to manage contracts, potential terminations of contracts, suspension of legal obligations under force majeure clauses, things that had to be done formally at the beginning. Then the second issue that we have faced has been to manage government shutdown, because in the case of Mexico, and I don't know the rest of the countries, many of the governmental entities and regulatory entities are closed. So getting permits, getting licenses, getting trade facilitation has been a challenge as well. The third thing that I think was very relevant when we went to shutdown was the labor portion of it. Of course, Toyota has 14 plants in North America, 2 in Mexico. And we had to deal with the unions, negotiate with the unions, because obviously variable payments and so many other rights under the agreements, the day that they were working, and everything had to be negotiated with them so that they could understand that. Then it became a challenge, because the pandemic came from, in the case of North America, came first from the region of New York, and then moved towards the south of the US, towards Mexico. So we were late like 4 or 6 weeks from some of the entities in the United States. But Mexico, as you all know, it's part of a very sophisticated manufacturing region, which is North America, and very competitive as well. So in the United States, many states declared the automotive business as essential, which allowed them to function. In the case of Mexico, it was not considered essential. So we had to lobby with both Mexican government and the US government to be considered essential and to go back to business, which was really a very, very strong and relevant thing to do. And now we're basically working on the startups and do a safe startup. And those safe startups mean obviously complying with certain sanitation measures that didn't exist before that obviously impact the manufacturing business, because you're not going to make cars the same time, the same way, in the same manner. You cannot have people as close, or as if you don't have certain measures. So that's where we are at this point in time. But I think it's also relevant to think about how we're going to plan for the future, because we see in a lot of places in the world the real risk that this will repeat itself soon, and that there could be new outbreaks of the pandemic in the fall. So I think at least now we have the way to the learnings to try to apply them in the next pandemic. And one of those issues in terms of my business in particular is we cannot disrupt the supply chains again just because countries take separate decisions or take separate legal measures, because that has a lot of costs. So maybe think about some kind of supranational legislation or supranational arrangements, so that we keep functioning as a region in the case of North America. So I think that's what we've experienced.
Thank you very much. So the impact is very, very strong, and the challenges ahead are still very, very challenging. Fabio, as regards your business, how are you dealing with this crisis? Which impact are you seeing right now, and also what do you see over the long term as the biggest challenges for your company?
So thank you for having me. So at the New Yorker magazine, where I'm general counsel, you know, in the publishing industry, obviously, and the media industry has had multiple difficulties and challenges in dealing with the coronavirus. We are an essential business, so we continue on. But it's been a real challenge to gather the news safely, especially when there have been shutdowns in places. Sending reporters out, having reporters travel, having them report in a safe way has been a big challenge. The other big challenge has been our office was shut down, as most offices in New York City were shut down. So producing our magazine and our website remotely has been an enormous challenge. So, you know, making sure everybody had the proper equipment and technology to produce a magazine. And it's really been a miracle that we've been able to continue production. We're a weekly print magazine and daily website. And every part of our business is very collaborative. Right, so a reporter goes out, the editor edits, there's art directors, copy editors, layout, designers, publicity people, and you know, every part of that has been extremely collaborative. So making systems for people to work remotely and continue to produce has been an incredible challenge, but one that we've risen to. We did have, when Sandy hit New York several years ago, we had that experience of working remotely. That was just for a brief period where offices were shut down during the Sandy storm and for a few days thereafter, a week thereafter. So we had some experience in how to do our work remotely, but this has been a bigger challenge because it's really long term. And then on the business side, you know, like many media companies, it's also been a real challenge. Advertising has really fallen off. Some reports for other media companies have been as much as 50%. Some sectors of advertising obviously have just completely gone away. So movies, theaters, productions have all stopped advertising virtually entirely. Other sectors, automotive advertising is down. Travel advertising, obviously down, if not gone completely. So the decrease in advertising for publishers and media companies has been huge. Again, that's a trend that's been you know, simmering for a while, but this has really accelerated it. For some news agencies, they've seen a big uptick in subscriptions. So that's been great. There is certainly demand for news and for accurate reporting, both about the pandemic, but also other kinds of things to take people's minds off this situation. So subscriptions are up, and media companies that have the bulk of their revenue from subscriptions have managed to do better than those that depend solely on advertising. So, you know, in the future, we have to figure out whether that increase in subscriptions is going to stay post-pandemic, whenever that is. We still don't know. New York is starting to open up now, but it's going to be a slow process, and we're going to, you know, keep an eye on the numbers and see if they increase. But as businesses return, We'll see if advertising goes up and if subscriptions stay up. But all around, it's been a big challenge for us.
Thank you very much, Fabio. Sven, regardless from sectors, because we have heard so far from automotive and media, you work at a law firm, so you're dealing with various clients at the moment, regardless from sectors, as I was saying. What are the major legal implications of COVID-19 you are experiencing connected to the different fields, and in which particular field you are receiving and witnessing growth of demands from clients? I think we lost. I think we lost Sven, so I'm going to read a question that we received. How did you organize the day-to-day work across your team in order to keep it efficient? Did you prefer to have lawyers focused exclusively on the COVID pandemic while the rest of the team was handling the day-to-day work, or not? Who's going to answer to this question? Fabio.
Well, so at Condé Nast, we didn't, you know, the COVID crisis has touched virtually every lawyer's role. So there's no way to really, you know, have some people deal with the COVID crisis and some others. It's affected every lawyer's function. Clearly, there are some people who focus generally on safety issues, compliance issues, and those lawyers, labor issues, those lawyers' work has certainly increased. The lawyers who do content review, I do a lot of libel review, that work has maintained, you know, and increased just because of the amount of stuff we're publishing to stay on top of the reporting. But we at least haven't, you know, segregated the roles in response to the crisis.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. At the moment, in most jurisdictions, apart from Mexico, we heard from Ruiz, in most of the jurisdictions connected here today with us, governments are setting up new phases. Let's say they are building a new normal. Indeed, countries are gradually reopening up again after the restrictions and the lockdowns of the last weeks. Mohamed, how are you handling this new phase now?
Thanks, Ilaria. Thanks, LC Publishing, and thanks for all the attendees and colleagues as well speaking. It's always good to have you, and it's always good, I don't know whether it's good or not to have me as well, but yes, pointing at the question, how are we handling the legal job? But before we answer this, actually, I would go to introduce what I'm doing here and what the company is doing, and then what the governments in various countries that under this jurisdiction are doing, as well as the company measurements internally and externally, not to mention as well, or last but not least, our role or my role as the General Counsel with the team and with the management team as well during this crisis. So more or less, the job here, this is Siemens. Siemens, as you all know, we are in every aspect in every country, providing the most needed power for even during crises, normal life, even during such COVID-19 crisis as well, right? So, and within the Middle East countries, I'm the General Counsel of Egypt. I'm based in Dubai, UAE, and I'm supervising Oman, Bahrain, and UAE, obviously. And with these all countries, every single country differs from the other. If now we can see even within the same country, different approaches by the government. Dubai is now almost 100% open, starting from 30%, 50%, now 100% open. However, Abu Dhabi, which is the capital of Emirates, is in total lockdown. This is somehow confusing us from process standpoint, from business of also standpoint. So if we look from the other side at the company internal management measurements taken to cope with this current case, we'll find as most of other multinational companies or even other businesses on earth, we are extensively using our online tools like Teams, Zoom, and our own circuit application as well. We have a full travel ban, which is really affecting our role, especially with somebody like me who is often traveling all around the Middle East. Of course, we're having a hiring freeze. We're using now more and more the e-signature, the ways of communicating with each other, which been there. We are a tech company from as original, right? But this is now more and more used every day, right? Not to mention the health and hygiene measurements within the premises of each premises we have in these countries as well. And definitely working from home, which is a new aspect now that we all have to do. All the ladies and gentlemen here in this school having nice shirts, but we never know what they are wearing the rest of the clothes, right? And this is happening in every single meeting that we have all along the day, right? So this is new. This is our new life, and we have. Firstly, I'm an old schooler. I was very much against it, but to really transform the mindset from the virtual to actual full virtual life, that was something it's a journey. We are in the process of it, but I'm telling you now, while we speak, we're like 60%, 70% more better than we used to be. Right. This is more about the company general actions, but what we do as general counsels or as legal persons within the organization, and this is quite important as well. We need to be there. We need to be close to the management, close to our teams, close to our colleagues. First thing is, as I view it, is to have a platform, whatever this platform is, to inform and notify management, various businesses with immediate governmental decrees, laws, resolutions pertaining to this situation on timely basis. And this platform, I find it a crucial tool for all general counsels, for all legal persons, to in-house legal lawyers or in-house, they must have this platform. Because the management it's time of uncertainty, it's VUCA time, right? So everybody is looking for news, for updates, for what's happening. And if you don't have this from the legal standpoint as well, as if you're not there, right? The second point is remotely managing the team. Luckily, I was doing this. My team is based in Egypt. I have some colleagues here as well. So I've been remotely doing this, but now I'm missing the monthly trips, the interaction face to face, which again, as an older schooler, this really very much affects what I'm doing. And this whole COVID-19 crisis actually, as I view it, and this might be totally wrong, it reflected three types of employees that you can easily sense. Employees who are not participating, who find this a good opportunity not to do anything, right? And they have a very good excuse to say, yeah, the network is not working, I have poor signal, or so and so. And you have other colleagues or other employees as well who are really overshowing that here we are. Let's set this meeting, let's add more meetings, let's have this call. Just showing more and more of I'm here, being there, which totally as well, I wouldn't say accept, but not 100% accept as well. And then the average normal professional people who really act as if they are in the offices. That, to me, the main pillars for any general counsel to really manage their existence within businesses during this COVID. But we have also as lawyers to view one very important aspect, which is the business. From business standpoint, again, we have two other pillars who are which are very important to look at. The first one is employment. We have employees out of the country. We have sometimes layoffs. Sometimes we have to manage some cost reduction. This can be reflected in obliging colleagues to consume their leaves while they are working from home. I wouldn't say salary reduction yet, but maybe this is coming on the way, and all other measurements that are in place, right? And definitely the business side. The business side is evaluating and re-evaluating every single contract that the company got into to really assess their exceptional circumstances. Is it force majeure? What can we claim now that this have direct effect of what's happening or not? And I have faced this in Oman, where we had the case to eject our employees from a certain site, and then the customer sent letters and we have to respond back, and we have to get back to the clause of the contract which says force majeure, and then is it really force majeure or is it exceptional circumstances? And in both ways, what's our liabilities, what's the role, and what the consequences would look like. But that's from the other point. The last point here would be future contracts and future contracting with third parties. Now the business, we know that we are in crisis. We know that there may be implications coming. So every business unit here should be educated, should be on case-by-case basis, explain to every detail of your coming future contract and what we should add and what should be removed from each and every contract. But this is more or less as a legal function, what and how we should handle our jobs during this pandemic. If you have any questions, I'm open for.
Thank you very much, because you raised plenty of contents, many important points that we will be discussing during this virtual roundtable. But the most important thing you said is about the role of the General Counsel during this pandemic. So a question now is for Sven. What is the role for the outside counsel indeed in this situation? I also saw you were taking notes of Mohamed's intervention.
Sure. Yeah. You know, it's is as always the outside counsel is assisting the in-house counsel with the task which they either cannot handle inside or would like to outsource. So there is, of course, an immediate implication by the crisis on the work. So we are a full service law firm. So we're doing basically everything in the business in business law. So we get a fair load of very specialist requests which are based on the crisis. So exactly what do we do with our employees? What are the rules we need to follow? What are the protocols we need to apply? Is one thing. Then next step, if we are going towards layoffs, reduction of staff and so forth, how are we going to do that? What are the conditions? How do we need to look into these things? That's the labor law side. Then, okay, safety at work, we already touched. We have, of course, litigation which is already coming up, caused by such questions as Mohamed said before. There is a force majeure. Force majeure, can I get out of my contract, or I would want to get out of my contract and I claim force majeure? Counterparty says no way, force majeure. And then you need a litigation specialist who analyzes the question. I think these are the issues that are directly connected to COVID and to the situation. Of course, Mohamed, also review of contracts, past and future. Past, where can I claim force majeure? Where can I do that? In the future, what should I, how should I implement provisions into my contracts and make sure that I'm protected against something. We've all seen this probably, or we have seen that these, let's say, clauses by which you can get out of contracts because of extraordinary events have been, the Dmacc clauses, for example, have been applied in the past, but became somehow less important. At least I had that feeling that they were in M&A transactions. We knew we had them, but not necessarily were you insisting on them. Now this became very, very actual in the crisis as several transactions ran, I don't want to say aground, but ran against force majeure clauses, or the COVID crisis had a serious impact on the target business. Now, if you had a well-negotiated and valid MAC clause, that was for sure an advantage. Otherwise, you needed to go step back and rely on legal provisions on force majeure or whatever is there in your jurisdiction. And then we have, let's say, things that are an indirect effect of the COVID crisis that are not directly connected to that, but that those are the influence of the COVID crisis on the economy and on single sectors. So, for example, M&A at the moment is down, but we're seeing signs. Ilaria, we were talking about this 2 weeks ago. That's when I was saying I think M&A is in a slowdown. Now this has changed because I see, lucky enough, very optimistic signs that this will wake up again. And we have sectors like FDI reviews, foreign direct investment reviews, where many countries have shut the borders. In the US, senators have suggested legislation for the complete stop of M&A activity above a certain level. Germany has lowered the blind, so has Italy. Australia has done the same, requesting that any activity in M&A should be subject to review by the government, which will be hugely interesting in the near future, because anybody who does M&A will have to go through that, and there is international frameworks on that, at least at the European level, but otherwise every state does that on its own. That, for example, then competition law, the same, and this is more or less in a nutshell what we do as outside counsels right now to assist the in-house counsel in their work.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's focus on contracts, because you said Mohamed raised the issue related to contracts, and you were discussing also about this. We also have a question from our audience on contracts and force majeure. It says, about future contracts, is COVID-19 considered as force majeure? If not so, how can we handle it? I would ask to reply to this question to Mahmoud, and also to share with us how he is handling with contracts and management in this moment.
Thanks, Ilaria. Hi, everyone. Thanks for ALC for this opportunity. Actually, considering COVID-19 as force majeure, it has differed between the countries. Not in all countries have declared COVID-19 as force majeure. Like Egypt, for example, we didn't announce the pandemic as force majeure. So we cannot take it as a base for the termination of any contract. We have other theories that may apply on this matter, like the emergency circumstances, for example, that you can somehow change some terms of the agreement to have a balance between both parties. That's what we can do. But for termination, as considering it as force majeure, we cannot do that. In some other countries, and we have faced that already, have declared the COVID-19 as force majeure. In this case, we have the right either to stop our obligations and whatever is under obligation under the contract, or to terminate the contract if it will be impossible to perform the obligation under this contract. So we should see what's applicable law under the contract between both parties, and we should know if this law considers COVID-19 as force majeure or not. And that's the case exactly. Concerning the agreements we have, actually we have reviewed all the agreements we have concluded in our company. And we found that we do have a force majeure clause that covers whatever we need. But in our particular case, in our industry, thanks God, we didn't face any kind of termination or a huge problem with clients concerning the delivery or concerning the quality or whatever is required to perform our obligations under the contract. What we have faced is only some delays. As you know, the international transportation and shipping lines didn't stop, I think, everywhere for security reasons and for economic reasons. So, and even our factories didn't close also. So we did perform our obligations with some delays that have been accepted by all the clients. So thanks God, we didn't face any problem. We have announced and sent a letter once the pandemic had arisen to all our clients that we may face some delays and we may consider it as a force majeure if it affects our obligations, but thanks God it didn't affect it directly, alhamdulillah.
Thank you very much. It is important, obviously, to maintain a relationship and try to negotiate, but it is not always possible. As you said, as anticipated, the litigation now is expected to rise. Eduardo, how are you handling contracts and also in general in time of crisis, in time of crisis such as this? It happens also that another thing tend to raise, which is fraud also and litigation. How are you addressing potential coronavirus-related fraud schemes?
Yeah, to be honest, we haven't experienced many of those attempts of fraud. Maybe we have been lucky. Yes, there is always the risk that you may suffer even several attacks, which probably go beyond the usual remit of the legal teams, right? And they are handled by our cybersecurity team, and so on and so forth. But maybe because I am the Deputy General Counsel for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, we don't have consumers in our customer base, so we don't work for consumers, but only for corporations, and typically for large corporations when we do business direct and with SMBs through our channel partners. We haven't seen a lot of frauds in terms of related to COVID-19. The issues we've faced are more along the lines of what we have discussed so far in terms of supply chain, in terms of customers requesting our delivery engineers to be COVID-19 tested before they can enter their sites or their facilities, and so on and so forth. A few weeks ago, something we had to deal with almost on a daily basis was what is essential service in every jurisdiction, because virtually all of the governments in the different countries sort of came up with their own list of essential services and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I would say has kept us busy for the most part. And I don't know what the experience of everyone else in this panel, but as far as we are concerned, luckily enough, and so far we haven't had to deal with that sort of issues ourselves.
And what about risk management? Because in times of changes, it's important to ensure that the risk tolerance level is consistent across the organization. Eduardo.
Right, that's right. So I guess the risk management decisions or calls we've had to make are more around, or at least one important piece there is what risk or what level of risk are we prepared and willing to tolerate as it comes to our own employees, our team members. So for instance, if there is a service engineer who needs to travel from point A to point B to service one customer, or if there is a sales rep who needs to travel from point A to point B to go to a meeting with a customer and do a sales pitch or have whatever sort of meeting and so on and so forth. What is the level of risk we want to tolerate? And the way we have addressed that is by going number one, or first of all, we implemented a travel ban, an absolute travel ban, as a matter of policy, as some other people have said in this panel, but there was an exception process. And the exception required that the request for the exception would be signed off in the first place by what we call an L2 in our organization. An L2 or level 2 is someone who reports to someone who reports to the CEO, so typically a senior vice president. And then there was a committee, which by the way I was part of, that would review all of those requests from a safety and health perspective, taking into consideration, publicly available data around that jurisdiction and some other data we were able to collect ourselves, and make the final decision as to whether that was a risk that we wanted we were comfortable with, or whether there were other means to achieve the goal without having to have someone actually traveling or spending a night at some hotel and that sort of things. So that was manageable in the first few weeks. Now, as more and more countries have eased and lightened the restrictions, the requests from customers to have our people go visit them are more and more frequent. So we are still require that L2 approval, but we don't review those travel requests on a case-by-case basis unless there is a compelling reason to do so. So that's how we have managed that. In terms of risk management associated to our contracts with customers, and also with our vendors and our supply chain, and we have a few key supply chain providers which are absolutely essential to our operation. We have tried to take an approach where the general principles that applied before COVID-19 still apply today. We put together as a legal team a playbook in terms of how we should deal with different requests from our customers from a contract negotiation perspective, and also how we should deal with some of the requests with our suppliers when we should invoke a force majeure, under which grounds, and what should our team look into before actually going down that path, and so on and so forth. And that's how we have handled this. So we haven't changed in principle or in general any of our policies or any of our processes. It has been more kind of providing additional guidance to our team members in terms of how to deal with the specific issues that may come up as a consequence of COVID-19.
Sure. Among the challenges that General Counsel must be addressing, and legal departments in general must be addressing over the next 12, 14 months, there is budget. Jasprit, will you review the budget again in order to cut it? How will you do it?
Yes, so we've already started with the budget. As you can imagine, the business has been impacted severely. So naturally, one of the things that we have to do as a legal function is to ensure our budget is reviewed. So I think one thing I can say is you gave some pointers in relation to how this is impacted, whether it's headcount, travel, or supplier spend. I think in relation to headcount within the legal function in-house, I think we're so valuable anyway, and this crisis has made us even more valuable. I do believe we've probably got even more than we did before. Speaking for Selecta, we have a very lean legal team, and you know the legal function is very much invaluable, and we see it with the business as well. In relation to travel, I think we've all proven the fact that we don't need to travel to negotiate contracts. We can do it very effectively via Zoom, via Teams. So I think, you know, going forward, we probably won't travel for the rest of the year unless we absolutely need to. But I think the real meaty part of where we will drive reduction is with external counsel. So there's huge pressure to ensure that we, you know, we manage our counsel better. And that's not to say that we will stop external counsel, because we can't do that. Unless you have a legal function that have subject matter experts in every bucket, you're not able to do that from a realistic perspective. So, you know, for us, whenever we use external counsel, it's completely important that we are absolutely sure we need to spend that amount, because at the moment, every spend we make, it's scrutinized. You know, I think for me personally, what I've done is used this opportunity to really check whether the external counsel we have are the right ones for us. You know, during this whole unprecedented period, there's been so much out there. So one example I'd like to share is around government initiatives. This was something we were following very closely on literally a daily basis, because this was very liquid. It was moving daily. Sometimes external counsel would reach out and say, you know, we can help you here. And I don't necessarily think they could, because actually legislation and changes will be made at government level. I don't know what external counsel could have added in terms of value that in-house counsel couldn't. Where I think value has been given from external counsel is when they are creative. So one of the questions that I followed is, somebody's mentioned that it's important to be creative on solving issues, and I think this is absolutely true for external counsel. So one of the things that I look for is when I speak to external counsel, let's say it's a real estate issue, we all understand the law, but what I'd like to understand from external counsel is, how are other companies doing things? What's the industry doing? You know, generally using them as a sparring partner. This is where I feel that we get the most out of external counsel. And other external counsels that we've partnered with, you know, have actually picked up the phone and just asked how we are as a business, what they can offer. And sometimes it's just to explain some situation you're under, and they are that sparring partner, and they don't even charge for that. That small investment has gone a long way, because for me, you know, they are the external counsels that I would always go to. So unfortunately, I do think there's a lot of pressure with external counsel. We will ask probably more for fixed fees, you know, more transparency on fees. That was another question we've had from the audience. And I think external counsel, and Sven, you can comment, this is something that you're probably very ready for and are already doing, because, you know, you're in it with us. You know, you are our business partners, and it's very important that we work together as internal and external.
Thank you very much. Sven, what do you think about what Jasprit just said, and how are you preparing in order to cope with,
Sure.
this further pressure?
It's something that has already manifested through the crisis. It's really this, you know, these conference calls, these video calls that have replaced somehow meetings and stuff, brought us even further together with our clients. We've always been working with very much in team with the clients. I normally work with large corporates, so my associates and I are usually distributed in the in-house, in the team, with their various functions, be that lawyers, be that the divisions, the actual divisions of the client, whether it's functions of tax, bookkeeping, and so forth. So very much integrated. That has even become stronger during this crisis, as we were doing exactly what you were saying was necessary. We were teaming up with the client in order to face the crisis from a legal perspective, of course, but as a whole, not client asking question, lawyer retracting to his library, then coming back with some answer which is not fitting, but we're really solving these things together. As I said, The force majeure clauses, of course, I've seen a couple of these. I've seen aborted deals where where one party says, this is force majeure, and the other says, no way, and then you're there in the middle. So that is, of course, something we're already doing, which is becoming stronger. Cost transparency is one thing that is absolutely necessary for me. I know it's necessary for the clients, but it's also necessary for me, because if I'm not transparent, come up with a huge bill in the end, client's not going to be happy, and that's not cool. So the best case is you talk about things beforehand, you fix these things, and then you do something which I call must be okay for both parties. So I don't want the client to just want everything for scraps, but the client also doesn't want me to suffer. So it's a bit of a give and take, and you come out at something where both parties are content, and that starts with fixing with fixing clear rules how these things go, and also, as you say, if you go for flat rates or lump sums, that is one thing. What's important for me is always that at the end of the day, you look into each other's eyes and say, is this okay? Is this not okay? Can this go? Can this not go? And then you can, if you must, adjust.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to the legal implication of this pandemic. Luis, another issue that is having, on which the COVID-19 is having an impact is compliance. Depending upon the company, different regulatory compliance risk may be lower or may be higher. What do you think?
Well, I think compliance is one of the topics that's severely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, impacted. Thank you. It's because there has so many issues, and I'm going to put automotive industry did not have to deal with health authorities prior to the pandemic. Now, dealing with health authorities is going to be one issue, and while we have to take those sanitation measures. Before that, health authorities used to deal with consumer products, restaurants, and hotels. So now we have a practice. Labor authorities have new obligations to ensure are taking into consideration. Then you have another additional impact, which is the lives within your premises. But then team members go home, and team members then do their life, and they can decide to go to a mall in the afternoon and not take any precautionary measure, and then go back and potentially provoke some kind of an infection within your facility. So there are several things that have changed and right now require and will have severe requirements that we have to comply with. And in addition to that, there's another potential issue that I've seen and I've read in many countries, which is governments had the emergency to purchase medical equipment and medical goods. And when you have that emergency, then the rules for bidding processes get relaxed, and then you get some direct purchases from other, and then you get a lot of or potential corrupt acts and actions, which also impact in terms of compliance. So I think it's been shaken. The world of compliance has been shaken absolutely by the COVID crisis.
Thank you very much. Mahmoud, Mohamed before was introducing the role of technology, the role that technology is having during this pandemic. Maybe it can be of help. What do you think about technology?
Actually, we discovered that technology is more important than we thought, especially that we almost are relying 100% on technology now, and all the applications that we are using, it's a WebEx or Skype or Zoom or Microsoft Teams, whatever, it's now essential to have it and to have it stable, and to train also employees how to use it and how to make it efficient. In our group, we have already invested a lot in the base of our infrastructure related to the IT. We have already prepared our meeting rooms, and we have equipped it with some interactive screens and smart conference systems, so we can have multi-conference calls related to legal topics or related to negotiation or whatever, as the one we are having now. We have a remote management systems that enable 24/7 monitoring services for all employees. We have something called Office 365. It's a kind of migration that allows full access to files, to emails, to your calendar management, and a lot of useful options for doing your business and make it easier. So definitely, yes, in the IT and the software segments and the technology as a whole is definitely very important now, and we will still invest more and more in this kind of technology.
Thank you. Jasprit, are you investing or planning to invest also in legal tech?
Sorry, yes, so in relation to technology, I think what I've realized that's been the biggest lesson through this virus is that anyone can really be impacted, any one of us. And it's really important, therefore, for the business to have one of the most important information, the crown jewels of any organization, which are the contracts, the customer contracts, the supplier contracts, to be available in real time and to allow this to be an efficient process. And this was the biggest lesson we learned, because what we learned was we've got a great database, we've got technology, but not everybody was using it. So, you know, one of the immediate steps is to educate everybody to input that information correctly, because at any given point, you know, I think the future of all organizations is they want to be able to touch a database and understand where you've got force majeure clauses, you know, where something like this is covered in their contracts. And when you're dealing with thousands of contracts, it's just not enough for the legal function to do that for you. You've got to invest in technology to make sure that this process is smooth. So we have an existing database. For us, the immediate step is to really move forward to ensure everybody uses it correctly. Going forward, I'm sure, you know, the days will come where we will invest more and more in technology, because this is what will free up our time also as lawyers to, you know, spend more time strategizing with the business. Because one of the things and trends that I've seen with in-house counsel is this is our spotlight, this is our time to shine, and this is where we are actually having the chance to have a seat at the table. And sometimes, more often than not, it's not just about giving legal advice around the contract, but it's adding value, strategizing, and giving more. And I think when you invest in technology, this is where you have the time to free up and spend time on that strategy piece.
Sure. Investments in technology might be useful also for law firms in terms of new services that you may offer to clients. What do you think about it, Sven?
Yeah, no, of course. I'm completely with you, Jasper, there. The crisis did exactly that. It showed us we've got super systems, we can access everything, it's working really fine. Everybody could, lucky enough, because from one day to the other, we were out of the office without access to our folders and files, to our physical files. So we were very well prepared. It wasn't really a problem. including, and that was a bit more surprising, including also the stuff, let's say bookkeeping, billing, all these things. We were all happily at home working without problems from day 1 to day 2. But we clearly also saw the limitations that we had, the need for further investments to add on certain tech stuff. I don't know whether we're already going in the direction of AI, which was hugely discussed, but the discussion has somehow died down right now. So mostly, as you say, Jasper, the technology to make accessible all the information that we have in our files and make them analyzable for everybody, so that everybody can use that and then can communicate to the people she or he wants to communicate with the results, be that via document sharing, be that via platforms. That's for me hugely interesting tools for working with clients to stop this email clutter right and left, and to set up project platforms where all the information is for all the team members, be they client, be they lawyer, be they other consultants, where it's all collected and connected so that everybody's got access to that, for example. Now, this is stuff where we are looking into hugely, and where we are modernizing what we already have, which is working fine, but can be better. So yeah, technology, I think that was now became clear on day 2 of the crisis that technology was king, and that if you had it, you were lucky. If you didn't, it wasn't so cool.
Yes, thank you. Technology is something that we learned. We learned from the crisis that we need to learn to do a better use of the technology that we have. Apart from technology, Fabio, in your opinion, lessons learned from this pandemic?
So I think we're still absorbing the lessons learned. You know, the technology is one of them. How to use it better, how to use it smarter. I think, you know, as I said about trends in the media business generally, it's accelerated things that were already there. The same for technology. Other lessons that we've learned is really that, you know, miracle of miracles, can produce a print magazine remotely and consistently and at really high quality. So, you know, thinking about new ways of working, when we do return to the office, how are we going to do that? We know now that we can do this remotely. Do some people? There are some people whose jobs are more difficult doing it this way. I think Mohamed said, and I agree. You know, one of the things I enjoy and is useful to me as a lawyer for the company is the personal interactions. Sometimes you have to, you know, sit down with someone face to face and talk to them and think for a minute and go back and all those kinds of small interactions. You know, people stopping you in the hallway to ask you a question that they might not have sent you an email about. That was, as the lawyer, extremely valuable to sort of hear what's going on, find out about problems before they really turn into crises. So, you know, we have to figure out whether that's lost or whether, you know, we can accommodate working remotely. But the big issue, the big lesson, I think, is that we can fundamentally do our jobs remotely, and we have to think about what are going to be the impacts of that. A city like New York has a massive midtown with office buildings and a lot of real estate and subsidiary businesses, you know, restaurants, things that depend on those office workers. So if those office workers don't return or don't return in the same number, how's that going to affect the economy? And how's that going to affect our market? So those are questions we're still thinking about and still trying to figure out. But the other thing I think we've realized is the importance of redundancy in the legal function, that we have people who can support us, and if one person is unavailable, there's somebody else who can pick it up and help. Oftentimes that may be outside counsel, but as Jasper said, there's always an expense issue there as well. So we have to balance the redundancy and backup sort of thinking with expense. The last thing that's really business specific is that the value to consumers of our product is really paramount, right? So again, the decline in advertising has not been offset 100% by the increase in subscriptions, but there has been an increase in subscriptions, and that's been really heartening to see, that people turn to us when they need accurate information about something that could not be more critical. So continuing to provide that service to our readers, to continue to provide that the best possible work that we can do, and do it in a way that is sustainable and provides a real service to our readers is the only way to survive. And so we sort of knew that already. We've always worked really hard to maintain the highest possible quality, but this has only brought that home even more, that's our relationship with our readers is really the core of our business. Not advertisers are important, and we love our advertisers, and we want more advertisers, but the foundation is really our relationship with our readers.
Thank you very much. Mahmoud, do you agree with Fabio on these lessons learned from the pandemic? Is there anything that your organization has changed that is a better practice now than before?
Yeah, definitely, I do agree with Fabio concerning that. Let's take it one by one. Digitalization now, we did confirm that it's very important and essential now in everything, concerning the documents, concerning the electronic signature, concerning the communication. So digitalization is now a part that is the most important in our life from now on. It was important, but now it's essential. We did have another view concerning having some opportunities in the countries that we are working in. My company is working in around 120 countries worldwide, where we had some opportunities during this pandemic that where we have a local staff that is already localized there. So now we have views that it's very important to have a local staff that is already in the company or the countries that you are targeting, like Uganda, like Africa in general, in GCC, even in USA. So it's very important to have a local staff so you can hunt some opportunities in the market. This one is very important, and we are going to invest more in this concept in the future. Digital marketing, CRM, local sales force are also very important to continue your business and to maintain it. As we can see all now, working from home is productive. We didn't know that before, but after that pandemic, we found that no, we can work from home, at least for the supportive functions, like the legal, like tax and financial. For only emergency, you can go to office if it's important, but as a general, you can work from home and it will be productive due to technology and to softwares and all applications that we are using now. Another lesson learned from that pandemic may be good for some opportunities. It may open some very good opportunities. You can have some purchases that you can never had it with the same price in the normal days. So we are now negotiating some M&As likely that we are never going to consider if you are not in the pandemic. It's now a good chance to have some expansion as it will be with low prices. So yes, we have some opportunities that we can use during the pandemic. Lastly but not least, a business continuity plan and sustainability plan is very important. Every company and every group should have a sustainability plan. It's very important. You should have some expectations, how you will manage your crisis, how you manage all the situations that you will face concerning economic problems, concerning whatever will happen. You should have a sustainability and continuity plan in your plans.
Thank you, thank you. Speaking of working from home, we have a question from one person from our audience. The question is, what are the methods that should be taken to achieve the best results during the working from home times? Who wants to answer to this question? You can raise your hand. Mohamed.
I can partially answer this question, Ilaria, because this can open actually the Pandora's box. It can have hundreds of answers, right? But truly, to manage working from home, within the team, we had this I find it a fantastic tip, truly, which is wake up early, put on clothes, don't stay in your pajamas, okay? Put on some clothes, please, as if you're going to work. This will help, believe me, this makes difference, right? So with this working from home methodology, you don't have to commute to work if you're taking 30 minutes, 1 hour or so to work. So I find it actually helpful to start working as early as you just waking up, right? You have the chance to have breaks between every and each meeting. And what has been noticed actually during this working from home period is we do have extensive meetings that we used not to have before, because we're missing the corridor talks, as Fabio just mentioned, which we obviously love. And we don't have the unnecessary discussions about matters that are not business related. So working from home can really fit within that. And I will just tackle upon one single point that in Dubai, for example, the government allowed 30% of the business, firstly, now it's 100%, 30% of the business to get returned back to offices. So the occupancy is around 30%, not more. So Siemens, as a tech company, we've created an application which named Comfy. This application, for every single employee should download this application, obviously, and it will give you the chance to know how many people in the office, who are in the office, if they are registered, and if you're already within the 30% limit or not. And sometimes even if you're registering, they can track the meetings and where who's attending what and so on. So for lawyers, I would say that working from home is not that easy because we're face-to-face person. We used to train ourselves how to convince others by sitting face-to-face and looking into their eyes and convincing them actually with the body language and everything. And now we have to use totally different interpersonal skills. And this is another privilege of working from home. If you're not ready to transform your mindset to this, you will stuck where you are. But this is more or less how the home working from home can really be utilized, right?
Apart from this, considering your experience, do you want to share any other tip to help corporate counsel to emerge stronger from this crisis?
Yes, Ilaria, and thank you for asking this. Actually, I would do these coming tips, or what I need to share with everybody, is actually for me and for everybody else. And when I'm saying tips, they are not really tips, but they are 2 pillars again. One pillar is the technical side of these tips, and the other pillar is the interpersonal side. So from technical side, I would say to myself and to every single colleague of mine, get closer to your business. Get a seat at the table, as Jasper just said, rightfully. We need to be part of the strategic business making, and this is our opportunity now. So the more we get close to business, the more we interact, the more we get the seat solidly there. Focus on the new areas of law that we have been missing for a long time back, like digital laws, solutions, data privacy laws, which are now newly issued in our region. Okay, and check what are the market need for legal methodologies now, and this is our part as well. Joining online webinars, network sessions like this one and others. Previously, if you have one of these each and every month, that would be great for you to really commute and physically be there. That was something, but now you can join 2-3 webinars a day. Okay, the study. Lawyering comes with a studying, so now this is a good opportunity for us to read, to study, to enhance our knowledge, skills, and as well, right? That's more from the technical side. Coming to the interpersonal skills, again, as I just said, we are now experiencing new methodology of how we interact with each other. So we have to be there, we have to again to change the mindset. This is not face-to-face, this is virtual life, full virtual life. So we need to work on our interpersonal skills in a way that we are agile. So agility and accepting more and more is a key here. We need to totally get rid of the suit. It's been there, it's been presented, we've been experiencing this since being in-house, really. We're not really too much into suits, but now it seems that we have to get rid of the suits. When I say suits, I don't mean the physical suit thing, right? But now you need different approach to start convincing your counterpart. This is more or less how lawyers should do, or should we all do, to enhance or improve our existence in this business life during and after the pandemic.
We have another nice question from our audience regarding team building and remote work. Who wants to give some tips on the best way to do team building, even working from home? You can raise your hands. Eduardo.
Yeah, so maybe not as much as not tips necessarily, but in our experience, something we've learned in this process is that our culture as a legal department was primarily, and that has been the case for many years, we want our people to come into the office almost on a daily basis. Yes, we want to have flexible working arrangements. So if you need to, get late to the office or leave early to home and the like, that's totally fine. But any particular reason lacking, we did expect people to be in the office, because we were convinced that that those informal interactions between the team members and between our team members and our internal clients, to Fabio's prior point, is so important, and we still think those are very important. But what we have learned is that there is a lot of work that can be done from home, and there is no decrease in productivity by having people working from home on a regular basis, which was, to be totally honest, was one of our fears. And what reality has shown in the last 3 to 4 months is that, to the contrary, actually people like working from home, and they feel they are more productive, and the managers feel their teams are more productive, because people don't need to spend time on commuting, or can go and make a break and go exercise or work out or whatever, and then come back to work, and so on and so forth. So generally speaking, I think the view has changed, and once we are back to normal, or to the new normal, whatever that means, we envision people working more regularly from home, and just getting to the office for collaboration or for socializing purposes. So maybe people will spend a few days at home, a few days in the office every week, and the like. I don't think we'll get to a point where everyone will generally work from home, because I think that at the end of the day, that creates isolation, and that sort of gets in the way of effective collaboration. But we definitely, in our organization, we definitely envision people working more from home and less from the office, which obviously entails a number of consequences and so on and so forth. But to answer your question, Ilaria, to answer the audience question in terms of how to be effective in creating that or maintaining that team spirit or team building efforts, I think, and that's what we have tried to do, communication is key. It's even more critical than before. So reaching out to your team members, having team virtual meetings, using Zoom, doing something fun. So for instance, inviting your team members in advance to hands to send videos, short videos in terms of what they have done during the pandemic or during the shutdown, or pictures of their families or their kids and so on and so forth. That I think that goes a long way in making people feel connected, and I think that's particularly important. The other thing is making sure that people are kept apprised of anything that is happening in the department, in the company, and the like. So again, it comes back to communication, if you like, more from an institutional perspective, for lack of a better word. But it's important that you don't lose sight of the fact that people are going to spend less time together. Travels, at least in the foreseeable future, are going to be extremely limited. So you need to continuously, as a leader, you need to continuously think about opportunities and ways to make people feel connected. And I would probably say it's more important to make sure that happens on the informal or on the informal side of things. Again, having fun together and laugh, making laugh at ourselves and so on and so forth, than more the more formal, regular, all hands where with substantive content and so on and so forth.
Sure. Again, on working from home, we have another questions. I read it to you. In your organization, is the working from home experience seen as a measure that companies can undertake in these hard times to cut fixed costs, utilities, for example, and improve the cash position? Sven?
Law firms, especially when they have a certain size like ours, we are enterprises ourselves. So we have, even if some lawyers don't want to believe that, we of course have questions of cash flow, of costs, and so forth, which became very actual in this crisis. So that's exactly what you are starting to think about when you see all your workforce sitting happily at home, working there very productively. You start thinking, why do I have to pay this high rise in the center of Milan for a lot of money? Or why does this office need to be so huge and sprawling? Maybe something smaller might do. And that would, of course, lead to the cutting of costs. We're thinking about that. This is a difficult thing because you don't really want to cut people off from the office. As Eduardo said, it's not going to be full home working for the future. So you need a place, you need somewhere to go, you need somewhere to meet, you need to see your colleagues physically. This is all very nice, but it's not a substitute for also physical meetings. And we are all human in the end. I think only the visual and the audio doesn't do it. But there's really a chance of reducing costs because things can be transferred online and you maybe don't need that much space.
Another question is about reducing paper. Is there any legal way to reduce paperwork and documents? Luis? We can't hear you. If we can please. Okay.
So yes, we have all learned how to sign within the computers. memoranda. We have learned how to use FedEx in our homes. I think it's an opportunity, obviously, to reduce the usage of paper. But I just want to go to a point that Sven was saying, and I think it's relevant that we understand that right now, home office has functioned very well also because everyone is in home office. Everyone's under the same circumstance, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to be the future. I mean, governments are going to go back to the office, and you have to still go and visit people and so on and so forth. So I'm a little bit skeptic. I think that probably, as Eduardo said earlier, maybe partial time between office and home is going to be the trend, but it will not function if everyone's not in the same channel as we are at this point in time. It will not function as well, I think.
Thank you. Jasprit, do you want to add anything?
I think you said it. We're all very familiar with DocuSign. We've reduced this. I don't know whether there is anything more we can do other than make sure we've got good lighting so we can review documents on our screens rather than print them out, which is what I always do and guilty of.
Maybe smart contracts
yes.
can be a good way also to simplify the legal language in general. Okay, I see a couple of questions on contracts, and I see that Mohamed is willing to reply to these questions. The first one was, in your opinion, if a contract was concluded in the time being during COVID-19, can any of the parties resort to force majeure to terminate the same contract? Mohamed.
Yes, let me explain briefly the theory of the force majeure. Actually, it has 3 conditions that should be fulfilled, and I think it's almost worldwide. When we have reviewed all the laws related to some of the countries that are in Africa or in Europe, we have found almost the same 3 conditions. First condition, that the force majeure should be general, should be on everyone, not only you, affecting you only or some people or some part. It should be a general condition. Second one, it should be unforeseen or unexpected. Should it be that you can expect it or you are in the middle of the act itself. Third thing, that it should directly affect your business or affect your obligations under the contract. The 3 conditions should be fulfilled together. So the second one, related to the unforeseen or unexpected, will not be the case if you sign an agreement now. We are in the middle of the pandemic. You know that it may affect your business. We are almost now from January till June. It's almost 6 or 7 months. Supposedly we have our measures. We know what will be exactly affected. We know the price fluctuation concerning the raw materials or whatever under your obligation. So I believe that no, you cannot claim force majeure if you sign agreements now. In the matter of COVID-19, it will not be possible. That's my answer for this question.
There is another question you were willing to give an answer to, which is the electronic signature have the same impact as the live signature before courts?
The live signature, yes. It depends actually on the applicable law. But most part of the world where they have some advanced legal systems, they do admit the electronic signature exactly with the same effect as the live signature. We do have the same here in Egypt and most of Arab countries. Most of them already have developed law that is ruling the electronic signature. And yes, it has full effect if all conditions are fulfilled, like having a token. So you can guarantee that the signing person is the same signature or the same person who should sign. It's very important to fulfill this to, avoid any kind of fraud or any kind of, misusing of this electronic signature. So yes, it will have the same effect. if you sign using the same rules as described below.
We have a couple of other specific questions that I invite you to type the answer while I'm reading the most general questions. There is a question on, again, on the role of the outside counsel. So I think it's a question for Sven. How can outside counsel be an add-on to help the work of the inside counsel? You said it before, but maybe you can add.
That's to me is the typical way we work, actually. Usually a function in a large corporate, as we are all more or less large corporates here, or you are, talk about that example. Usually a function has a legal problem, they go to the legal department and ask the question. The legal department says, this is something very specific which I can't solve, and I need a specialist for that. Or this is a lot of work which I don't have the manpower for. I need a team of lawyers to work with that. So your legal department would team up with a law firm or a lawyer in order to solve that together, and the actual distribution of the work to the outside counsel is then being handled by the in-house department. So to which extent, how much, what, how you work together. So that is the add-on of the outside counsel to the in-house function.
Just to close this discussion, in general, new opportunities arise following crisis. Do you want to, any of you want to share some its opinion on the opportunities that can arise from this crisis, and what are the opportunities to grow as a department and emerge more efficient and effective following this crisis? Fabio.
So I think, as I said before, one of the opportunities is maybe a more humane workplace where people, can work from home to the extent that they want to. Childcare is obviously an issue for many of our staff members. So, making those transitions is an opportunity. Maybe there are cost savings for real estate and other things. I'm not sure how that will work out. I think Luis's point is accurate. We have to be careful that there's not sort of a bifurcated workforce where some people are working from home, some people are in the office, and maybe there are differences and opportunities for people who are in the office versus people who are telecommuting. And we have to be careful that there doesn't develop a sort of two-tiered workforce based on geography. So I think there is an opportunity to work in maybe a more humane way, and a way that's as I think it was Mohamed said, take off the suit and be more integrated in your business and keep closer touch with your business partners.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank you all the speakers and the audience for attending this webinar. It has been for me a real pleasure to moderate this interesting discussion. Let me just remind our audience and you also to keep reading our portals in order to keep posted on the legal market news and stay tuned on our new initiatives. Thank you very much and see you soon.
Grazie mille.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you much. Bye.
Bye.